Hello, I'm Father Joe Roesch of the Marian Fathers of the Immaculate Conception. Thank you for joining us as we continue with our year-long journey reading the diary of St. Maria Faustina Kowalska from beginning to end. Today we take up from where we left off, beginning with diary entry number 449. August 5th, 1935, the Feast of Our Lady of Mercy. I prepared for this feast with greater zeal than in previous years. On the morning of the feast itself, I experienced an inner struggle at the thought that I must leave this congregation which enjoys such special protection from Mary. This struggle lasted through the meditation and through the first Mass as well. During the second Mass, I turned to our Holy Mother, telling her that it was difficult for me to separate myself from this congregation, which is under your special protection, O Mary. Then I saw the Blessed Virgin, unspeakably beautiful. She came down from the altar to my kneeler, held me close to herself, and said to me, I am mother to you all. Thanks to the unfathomable mercy of God. Most pleasing to me is that soul which faithfully carries out the will of God. She gave me to understand that I had faithfully fulfilled the will of God, and had thus found favor in his eyes. Be courageous. Do not fear apparent obstacles, but fix your gaze upon the passion of my Son, and in this way you will be victorious. Nocturnal Adoration. I was suffering very much, and it seemed to me I would not be able to make my adoration, but I gathered up all my willpower, and although I collapsed in my cell, I paid no attention to what ailed me, for I had the passion of Jesus before my eyes. When I entered the chapel, I received an inner understanding of the great reward that God is preparing for us, not only for our good deeds, but also for our sincere desire to perform them. What a great grace of God this is! Oh, how sweet it is to toil for God and souls! I want no respite in this battle, but I shall fight to the last breath for the glory of my King and Lord. I shall not lay down the sword aside until he calls me before his throne. I fear no blows, because God is my shield. It is the enemy who should fear us, and not we him. Satan defeats only the proud and the cowardly, because the humble are strong. Nothing will confuse or frighten a humble soul. I have directed my flight to the very center of the sun's heat, and nothing can lower its course. Love will not allow itself to be taken prisoner. It is free like a queen. Love attains God. Once, after Holy Communion, I heard these words, You are our dwelling place. At that moment, I felt in my soul the presence of the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I felt that I was the temple of God. I felt I was a child of the Father. I cannot explain all this, but the Spirit understands it well. O infinite goodness, how low you stoop to your miserable creature. If only souls would become recollected, God would speak to them at once, for dissipation drowns out the word of the Lord. On one occasion the Lord said to me, Why are you fearful, and why do you tremble when you are united to me? I am displeased when a soul yields to vain terrors. Who will dare to touch you when you are with me? Most dear to me is the soul that strongly believes in my goodness and has complete trust in me. I heap my confidence upon it and give it all it asks. Once the Lord said to me, My daughter, take the graces that others spurn. Take as many as you can carry. At that moment, my soul was inundated with the love of God. I feel that I am united with the Lord so closely that I cannot find words to express that union. In this state, I suddenly feel that all the things God has, all the goods and treasures are mine, although I set little store by them, for he alone is enough for me. In him I see my everything. Without him, nothing. I look for no happiness beyond my own interior where God dwells. I rejoice that God dwells within me. Here I abide with him unendingly. It is here that my greatest intimacy with him exists. Here I dwell with him in safety. Here is a place not probed by the human eye. The Blessed Virgin encourages me to commune with God in this way. Saint Faustina speaks to Our Lady here on the feast of Our Lady of Mercy, and Saint Faustina is struggling with the thought of having to leave her beloved congregation, which is dedicated to Our Lady of Mercy. So Mary is a special protector of that congregation, and she feels that God is calling her to found a new order. Our Lady tells Faustina that she is doing God's will by even trying to fulfill his will. She tells her to not be afraid, to meditate on Jesus' passion, and in this way she will win the victory. Another time, St. Faustina was suffering so much, it didn't seem that she would be able to attend her turn in the chapel, adoring the Lord in the Blessed Sacrament at night. But she overlooked her sufferings, she dragged herself to the chapel, and the Lord blessed her efforts. Once, after receiving Holy Communion, St. Faustina experienced the indwelling of the Holy Trinity in her soul. She experienced great joy and happiness. She calls us to recollection, because Jesus wants to speak to us if we would just open our hearts to him and listen. Jesus tells her to fear nothing, that he is there to protect her, and he calls her to trust. And then he pours out into her heart all the graces that other people don't ask for. So let's ask for those graces. St. Faustina finds her happiness in God, who dwells in her heart. We look for happiness in so many different places, and so many of them are dead ends. We can learn from Faustina to slow down, to quiet our hearts, and to look for our happiness in Jesus, who dwells in our hearts.